Hello and welcome to another week of the Pick and Go podcast. Plenty to talk about this week. There was some great Bunnings NPC to enjoy on the weekend and no international footy, but we've got plenty to preview this weekend. To my left, Paul Moati. Paul, how are you this week?
Very good. Looking forward to a return to international football, as you say. Big game on Thursday night, test match football. How good. I'm really looking forward to that. And of course, there's plenty of NPC action this week I think the main game is the Ranfurly Shield Challenge up there at McLean Park.
Sad to say, the Ranfurly Shield, plenty of interest in that. And we've actually brought in someone who I'm sure will have something to say about it. A very special guest this week on the show, Ian Smith. Smithy, how are you?
G'day, guys. Actually, I thought that was the only reason you're contacting me, because it's for me. I mean, God's sake, the greatest rugby trophy in New Zealand rugby still, and no one else seems to want it. I don't get it. No one else seems to want it. It's a wonderful thing to have.
It's obviously a hard thing to come up to McLean Park, a lot of pressure there, and I thought that Southland might keep it a bit closer last week, but Hawke's Bay, just that second half were
Put the foot down.
Ruthless.
Yeah, they were ruthless, and that's been a performance waiting to happen, but of course they we'll talk about it shortly, but they have to back up this weekend, and there's nothing. If it's going to go, I hope it goes to a province which we'll enjoy having it, we'll own it, and celebrate in it, and the crowds will reflect it, and that's one of the things that's been great for Hawke's Bay Rugby.
Absolutely, yeah, you can see it every week. Gets the bums on the seats. It's great to see. They'll have a big challenge this week, and we will get to that. But as Paul said, there is a Thursday night game, so that's why we're recording a couple of days earlier this week, and plenty to look forward to. Playing at what's it called now? The Marvel Stadium, in Melbourne. And we've got the first Bledisloe test. We haven't played in Melbourne for a few years. Recent history, I think they've played 4 games there from what I could see, and it's 2 each. So we'll see who takes this one. We do have 2 teams, obviously. All Blacks up first. We'll touch on them with any surprises. They've moved Barrett to 6, Buddy Richards come in. Hoskins Tutu finally getting the start at 8. We wondered last week whether Tutu or Jacobson would get a start. And the back line, they've just copy and pasted there. Smithy, we'll start with you. Were you surprised with any of those selections?
Not really, bearing in mind the injuries. Had there not been any injuries at all, fellas, I think he might have even stuck to the same 15. Now, that would have been 4 times in a row, which is just unprecedented in the history of All Black rugby. But he was forced into, of course, with Artie, who's been our best player, no doubt, throughout the year, missing. So that's been a bit of an issue. But I quite like to see Hoskins Tutu have a crack on the back of a side that's starting to perform well. So I don't think we'll lose too much there, although Artie's ball carrying strength is amazing, and the way he finishes games off, he's got such an engine compared to most players. So I like Scott Barrett at 6 as well, because that was probably at home one of our best functioning packs. Was that first time we played against Ireland. We did get exposed in a few areas, but I thought Scott Barrett is very good at 6, and that offers, of course, a hell of a lot more line-out options to us as well, with a genuine line-out target there. So I'm not so disappointed in the side. Of course, how can you be disappointed when winning other changes is Brodie Retallick coming back and looking hungry as well. So I think the forward pack looks good, and the back line is status quo and starting to fire a few shots, as we saw in that last test match. So no great surprises in that, either the bench, either for me. So I'm looking forward to this with a continuation on from what happened in Hamilton, very, very positively, fellas.
Oh, like to hear that. I'm looking forward to hearing where you might be looking with some of your betting later on. Paul, was there anyone you wanted to see get a start? Maybe a bit of a change in the back line there. You're happy with the status quo, as Smithy said?
Yeah, I guess, first of all, to the forward pack, and I agree with Smithy. I think Tutu definitely deserves his chance to have a go there. I guess, how will that affect the overall balance of that forward pack? I think the current coaches have probably identified this forward pack outside of Artie as their number 1 forward pack. Perhaps maybe there could be a tweak in the front row in the future. But outside of that, I think this is the forward pack that they're going to be going to the World Cup with, and looking to, I guess, set a platform for that back line to create opportunities. If you have a look at the back line, I guess there's still the Moanga Bodie question. Obviously, Richie gets another go there, and I think he should as well. The midfield looks like they've settled on Havili and Ioane, but there's the imminent return of Anton Leonard-Brown. Does he still have a place in the I guess the larger squad? What about RTS? Is he done and dusted? Does he come back in again at some stage?
Stephen Petafeta, another one of those ones where you wonder whether he's had his 50 seconds of fame. Or...
Well, exactly. I guess with the All Blacks, they're almost the opposite of the Australians when it comes to the number 10 jersey. It's not with the Australians, it's more a Crockett, who's left that we can put in the number 10 jersey, whereas with the All Blacks is, well, who do we leave out? Who don't we put in the number 10 jersey? So they've got an abundance of riches here. It's about them getting the balance right, I guess. The 5-3 split on the bench, obviously with Scott Barrett at 6, he's also lock cover for this test, which means they've gone with a couple of loose forwards on the bench, which means I think means we'll see them sort of, I guess, sort of rotating slightly earlier than they may have in previous test matches. So I expect to see Ioane and Dalton Papali'i get on a wee bit sooner than we've seen the forward reserves come on in the last 2 or 3 test matches. Can the All Blacks put another consistent performance on that we haven't seen them do it so far this season? 2 times in a row, haven't seen it. This is their big chance over in Melbourne, where the focus is all on the AFL. Yeah. So there's hardly any focus on the All Blacks Wallabies test match. So there'll be very little pressure on them. They'll be in their own little bubble. They'll be able to express themselves, I think.
I was going to ask a little bit later, but I might as well while you bring it up. Smithy, you obviously across the Tasman just last week for the Black Caps Chapel Hadley series. Was there any sort of talk in the media and about this Bledisloe game with interest, or was it all sort of, obviously there's so much sport over there with the NRL and AFL sort of really kicking into the next gear at the moment? So was there much chat in the media about the Bledisloe one?
Not a lot. I'll be perfectly honest with you. As you would expect, with the NRL playoffs and 2 or 3 classic games over the weekend, that captured most of the attention in terms of the review of the weekend leading into this weekend. And of course, where they are in Melbourne is just absolutely dominated by the AFL. And that is the reason, of course, that they're playing on Thursday. They could not possibly try to compete at the weekend in that wonderful state or that wonderful sporting city. So they're about, with the cricket as well, I would imagine the media-wise, exposure-wise, probably about 4th cab off the rank. In all honesty. So, and it might well be a reflection that they are playing in Melbourne, which is, is not traditionally a rugby state as well. And also the fact that I don't think the Australians hold out much hope. They haven't got a lot to hang their hat on in terms of beating the All Blacks. So I think they're kind of preparing a little bit and hoping it might just sneak under the radar a wee bit. The rugby scribes are onto it. But those fringe elements that you would expect to be promoting it more are not there this time around, no.
Yeah, so unlike Ian Foster, Dave Rennie's really running the changes for this game. It was eight overall, a couple of injury/concussion base, but a few players have been dropped. Dave Ricky coming to start. Jed Holloway has been moved into lock. Rob Leota and Pete Samu both getting the start in the back row with the all Victorian-born back row with Rob Valentini, Lalakai Fekete playing 12, and Callaway into 15 with Reece Hodge moved to the bench. The most notable, though, is probably this 19. You've got Jake Gordon and Bernard Foley who've been brought in, so the old Waratahs partnership. Foley not seen in the Wallabies jersey, I think, since the 2019 World Cup. So be interesting to see what happens. We saw about this time last year, there was a former Wallabies 10 that came from Japanese rugby on an SOS call and put on a particularly memorable performance against South Africa. Can Bernard Foley be the Quade Cooper this year and, bring Wallabies a pretty unlikely win here?
So we get to number 4, number 10 for the Wallabies, basically, with Cooper not there, Lalisia not there, O'Connor hasn't got any form at the moment. So we're now back to Foley.
He hasn't played in 3 years.
Who's been doing, I think, speaking engagements around the town. So this is a huge, huge call. And I guess for Rennie, he had no other choice. And let's throw him in there and just see what he can do. It's tough. It's going to be very, very tough. Foley has played the All Blacks before, and he hasn't tasted a lot of success. To be fair, not a lot of Wallabies have tasted a lot of success against the All Blacks over the last, 20-odd years, which is how long they've had the Bledisloe Cup in the trophy cabinet. So this will be really, really tough for Foley to come up against an All Black side that is looking to put 2 really good performances together in a row. I feel for the guy.
He's got nothing to lose, though.
No.
So, he could just go out there and play his game and hope for the best. Hopefully he'll have sort of memories of Cooper coming out there and kicking that last minute penalty to seal the win against Africa last year.
I think Gordon he comes in because Nick White was at the Emmy Awards, couldn't get back in time. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that.
Fair.
Or maybe he's had delayed concussion from his little slap from Buff a few weeks ago.
His moustache has got concussion. There they go.
What were your thoughts on that selection of Foley there, Smithy?
Well, I would imagine Michael Liner's quite disappointed that he missed out. I mean, they've gone that deep. But having said that, I don't see a lot of threats in that back line, even if they get parity up front. I see some useful players, but I don't see combinations there. I don't see proven international rugby players there. I mean, we know Corin Betty can be dangerous, but if I look at that, I don't see any X factor in that back line. I've got to say, proven time after time X factor that would trouble the All Black defence. And that has been one of the issues, of course, getting our defensive patterns sorted out. They're nice. It's a nice looking back line, but to me, it's not one that's going to race in 4 to 5 tries against the All Blacks unless things go horribly wrong. I'm surprised about the Nick White omission as well. I would have thought he was a given because he has got that X factor. Whether you like him or not, Reece Hodge is a match winner with his boot, but the game might be gone by the time they call on Reece Hodge. And Jordan Petaia has been pretty handy as well. So I think they've got quality on the bench in their back line, more so than perhaps they've got in their starting 15. Incidentally, I was talking to Kerry O'Keefe off air the other day in the commentary box. He's a wonderfully funny man, but he was saying that he knew a group of guys that were at the airport the other day when Nick White was walking through, and they were South African fans, and they all raced up to congratulate him because they thought he was dead. They thought, Nick, you're alive. You're alive, Nick. Well, we didn't know if it was you because we thought you were dead. So, and Nick White will I hate to be Nick White when Nick White next goes to Johannesburg and Ellis Park. I can promise that'll be fun. Yeah. But getting back to that back line, I just do not see X factor in there that's going to hurt us. And Bernard Foley, I mean, from where he's been to where he has to be, it's almost an impossible leap. It certainly is. I know he's got 71 games under his belt. Great. But not coming into it fresh as this is. And I think a pack that might be under a bit of pressure as well. It's a bit of a makeshift sort of a pack with people chopping and changing. I do like the look of their loose forwards because I really am a big fan of Valentini. I know Pete Samu will lift against us as well. But I just do not see, if I just go with our rejuvenated and refound front row, I can't see them dominating there. Retallick, Whitelock, well, if they get monstered by Holloway and Phillip, we have got issues. And then, of course, we've got a very, very handy loose forward trio with ourselves and some good ones to come off the bench as well with Papali'i and Akira Ioane. We could end up with an all blues back three at some point in terms of our loose forwards if we have the luxury of making those sort of substitutions. Honestly, I keep looking at it and I kind of feel a little bit for Dave Rennie in this of circumstances. He's a good bugger. We all know that, but I think he's staring down the barrel in Melbourne. I really do.
So you'll be jumping into the, what is it, New Zealand minus 12.5 in the point start market there?
Oh, yeah. I'd be thinking on the way these teams look on paper, I'm certainly looking at that market, and I'm seriously looking at where we're going to punish them. Will Jordan has been off this, I think Will Jordan, certainly you'd have to put him in there as a try scorer. And I think Samisoni Taukei'aho early on in the piece as a ball carrier, I'd be having a lazy number on him as well. But any one of those All Black starting players, I'm confident at some point, if they get their hands on the ball, are a try scoring possibility.
Will Jordan currently $1.90 to score a try in the Test match on Thursday. Taukei'aho $2.25 to score a try, and I can certainly see him rolling off the back of a line out as that forward pack just rumbles 5 meters towards the try line, and him falling over the line, picking up.
How many has he got this season already? About 3 or 4?
Yeah, and he's done them against a lot bigger and stronger forward packs than this Wallaby pack that he faces on Thursday night. I agree with Smithy as well. I think Rennie was forced to make a few changes in the loose forward department. Valentini has been to be fair, Mick Wright has been very, very good for them as well. But last time out against the Springboks, he just looked a wee bit tired and got totally outplayed by Khaleesi and the Springbok loose forward trio. So I think there was no other choice for Rennie. He had to do something in that loose forwards. And I agree. I like the fact that Samu's in there. I think we'll see him have a big, big game. And I don't mind the fact that Mick Wright will come off the bench and get 20, 25 minutes. I think he deserves a wee bit of a rest because he did look a wee bit tired against the Springboks in Sydney.
Yeah, well, we were singing the praises of Mick Wright after that first win against South Africa. He was huge. He was everywhere. He was hitting lines and hitting rucks on both sides of the ball. So be interesting to see what that Australian bench can do, because they do have some power there with Falafanga and Dusty Swain there as well. So if they can keep it close and come on a bit late, there's definitely some power there that could swing the game in the Wallabies' favour. But yeah, it'll be very hard if the All Blacks come out and they play like they did in that Argentinian test. If we get that, as we said before, we haven't seen these 2 consecutive good performances yet. But if we get that this week, it could be a bit of an ugly finish for the Australians.
Tough for Rennie. I mean, the amount of injuries that Australian squad has had, plus the Hooper pulling out as well. There's just so many that they don't have the depth that we have here. So the fact that he's been able to pick up a victory against South Africa with all those injuries taken into account, I think he's done a really, really good. But I do think he's on a bit of a hiding here, just with the fact that the All Blacks, as Smithy said, 4 times in a row they've almost picked the same sort of team.
Yeah, so it could be a pretty long night for Australia. But hey, who knows? They might be able to bounce back and sort of put on a bit of a show. Is there anyone, Smithy, you've got sort of circled for a big game, from either side, for a big game to really have got a point to prove?
I think Brodie Retallick will make a statement. I do. I think if he's going to, he will. I think he's had enough footy now, coming back from the jaw injury, where I think he'll make a statement. I think the tight 5 will be very good, very, very solid indeed. And if that is the case, then we might see something quite special out of Richie Mo'unga this time around. I'd like to see Clark get more involved. I think the more we get the ball in his hands is I think, quite crucial, because he takes a hell of a lot of stopping. He's a huge unit. So I'm looking for that. And the more that the centres combination play together, Havili and Rieko Ioane, the better and the smoother they're going to get, and make it very hard for other people to come in. So I just think if the platform is there, and I'm expecting it will be, we're going to see some sparkle from the backs, some real sparkle from the backs. And I think the constant request from particularly people down south is, let's see Jordan at 15. I'm not sure we're going to. I'm not sure we're going to see Jordan at 15, so we might as well get used to him at 14. And counter-attacking from that position. So, and just how hungry is Bodie if he gets an opportunity? let's see how hungry Bodie Barrett is off the bench. So at that point, I'd imagine the All Blacks will have quite the dominance and he could run amok. So I'm just looking for across the board, really sparkling performance, really am.
Yes. So, Paul, anyone who have you circled from either team to for a big performance? It's got something to prove.
Richie Mo'unga. And I agree with Smithy. I think the forward pack will get a certain amount of dominance over the Wallabies, which will allow Richie a bit of space and a bit of time. And we've seen him put on a number of rugby clinics while playing for the Crusaders in Australia against Australian sides. And I think we're going to see a wee bit more of the same on Thursday night. So Richie Mo'unga for mine. I'm really looking forward to see how he goes in the team jersey.
Lovely. I'm looking forward to the battle of the eights myself. I think Satutu's got plenty to prove. You know, he's sort of been in the squad the whole time, but hasn't even come off the bench at all. So he'll be relishing the opportunity to get a start. And then Rob Valentini, how good is he? He's sort of there, Adi Savia, just a constant performer every week. He's scoring an 8 or a 9 out of 10 on his performance. So I think we could see if Australia are to keep this close and even get a win, I think that'll be on the back of him. So.
Who's the recognised goal kicker in the Wallabies team? Foley.
Has to be Foley.
When was the last time he kicked the ball in anger in a proper game? I'm just looking at, I don't know.
Yeah. You're right, Paul, but I do remember him kicking one from halfway, wasn't it? Way back in a Super Rugby game to clinch it all those years ago. That hurt us.
It was a few years ago, but yeah, you're right, Smithy.
That was when I was a Crusaders fan. Yeah, I remember that vividly. We'll see. I mean, and you got Hodge coming off the bench as well. So if they do need a big kick later in the game, he's will obviously be the man there.
Funnily enough, I was talking to a punter the other day, and he mentioned that game because he had a number of multis finishing on the Crusaders to win the Super Rugby title.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking a few zeros. And I think the Crusaders had the ball late in the game, and there was a turnover or something like that. And he goes, "No, don't." And
I got a feeling it was a penalty against Richie McCaw.
Yeah, I think it might have been.
Yeah. Sneaking suspicion.
Yeah. I forgot about that
anyway,
one,
halfway.
Yes.
Love it. Yeah, well, any other hot takes from that game? There's another Rugby Championship game, which I'm sure will be exciting for one reason or the other. So we can move on to that. The Pumas and the Springboks playing in Buenos Aires. Let me have a look at this. Argentina $3, South Africa $1.40 in the match result market. Get a draw for $21, and the point start is -7.5 Springboks. Been a bit of a disruption this week in the Springboks camp, it's safe to say, with the news of Alton Yanti's been up to no good with the team dietitian. Do we think that, how much of a sort of distraction do we think that'll be to the Springboks prep? They're obviously a pretty structured, drilled team. Do you think that'll throw them off a bit? Or
he's obviously been eating well. Yeah, but this is not the first issue they've had with our good friend Elton, has it? I mean, he had a wee bit of a to-do on a flight from, I think it was from Durban to Joburg or the other way around. So possibly alcohol may be a factor in both of these occurrences. But I don't think it'll affect the South African team at all. In fact, I think they'll appreciate it as a distraction away from the actual rugby. And I think it's more the other players that they don't have going into this game. A certain guy who usually wears the 13 jersey. I think that's more of a loss for the South Africans than this distraction, as you call it.
Do you think we'll ever see him in the Springboks jersey again, Smithy?
I'm just listening to Paul here. Very diplomatic. Very, very diplomatic. I've got to say, you danced your way around that very, very well. The fact of the matter, of course, is he's dead unlucky because all they were doing is just making sure that the room service menu was good for the Springboks. I mean, for goodness sake, the fact that they're in the same room can be the only excuse for that. Dead unlucky, I've got to say. So here's, look, I look at it this way. I quite like this. I quite like Argentina at that money. The reason was it's Argentina at home, right? There's 0.1. So I think there's value in that. I think there's value also in the fact that they now know they can beat anyone, anywhere, anytime if they get in the right mood, having beaten us down here. So there's that factor as well. The home crowd, I think, is another factor. And also this series, this rugby championship has sort of been a win one, lose one scenario. And we're back at this now. I think Argentina will win one of these two games. It's a question of which one. I think they're good for one of them. And the Springboks have this wonderful thing from a media point of view, and I'm sure from your guys' point of view, from a punting point of view, is they name their team early in the week compared to other sides. So we know now that they've got an unchanged 15, which means Jacques Nienaber has taken the Ian Foster approach. An unchanged starting 15. They played really well against Australia last time round. They've got 3 changes off the bench, which includes Faf de Klerk at halfback, and we know what kind of influence he can have on a game. So I like the look of the Springboks as well. I'm not quite sure which way to go here, whether if the Springboks are at all flat, if they are at all flat, Argentina, the Pumas, for a terrible pun, will pounce. They will pounce on them in that home environment.
It's a great pun. Don't undersell yourself there. Really enjoyed that. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think South Africa, like the All Blacks, really, we've struggled to see 2 consecutive performances from them, and they've come off the win with Argentina coming off that big loss. But they're playing at home. It wasn't until about 3 or 4 years ago that they hadn't beaten the Springboks at all, and I think they've beaten them twice at home and 1 time over in the Republic. So if they are to get a win from these 2 games, and that sort of seems to be how the tournament's playing out, this is obviously the most likely game, being at home in the capital. So I don't mind that at all. You mentioned before, the South African unchanged lineup. You've got Leroux at the back and Willemse at 10. Faf back to the bench. That's probably Elton Janchi's been out. It's probably changed that sort of that impact from the bench, because he can obviously come on and he can sometimes cover that 9-10. But you got Faf there and Andre Esterhuizen on the bench, who I don't know too much about, but he's supposedly, Wikipedia tells me, he's a centre/fullback. Jesper Weiss at 8 again. We were talking last week about him and Vermeulen.
Well, I think that's where the Springboks will win the match. If they're to win, they'll have the same dominance at the breakdown that they had last time out against the Australians. So Khaleesi, Mostert and Visa, big games for that trio. I'm really interested to see how Moody Blues, the young fella who made his debut last week, scored just a wonderful try. I'm just love to see how he goes over in Argentina against a rugby mad crowd, how he sort of performs under the pressure, whether he can make another step up in performance. But the way he played last week, I get the feeling that he will. He just looks like a very, very special player. So I'm looking forward to him. Great to see Marks and Kitsov starting again. I think that's the best sort of way for the Springboks to go.
Especially with no Bongi there at the moment.
Yes,
So.
Yeah. So I agree with Smithy again. I think their win here in New Zealand has given them belief now. Belief that they can beat anyone, anywhere. So they go back, they've had a bit of a rest. They can regroup after that. They had a poor performance, to be fair, in Hamilton. They've had a chance to regroup now. They're back home. Oh,
I'll be happy to be at home, in front of the passionate Argentine, the home crowd. They love their.
I'm keen to take them plus the points.
Plus 7.5. Not bad there. Not bad. Any players in particular you're circling, Smithy?
Yeah, look, I'm really waiting to see with interest what Argentina come up with. Now, you talk about the breakdown, Paul, and that's a very good point you make, but I go back to the breakdown in Christchurch when they beat us there. Crema, how good was Crema? How good was Matera? I mean, if they get in the mood, and that's the thing, what they're also, because they're a side that have fluctuating fortunes as well, the Pumas, they can. I think they tend to shake off a loss or a poor performance quicker than most because they come and go. They're hot and cold. There's no consistent middle ground there, and that's why I think they're a real possibility. So I just look for their playmakers to be key. I think they'll fight very hard in the forwards. I think they'll get a lot of parity if they they play Petty at lock. Of course, I mentioned the loose forwards. Their front row, which was pretty poor here in New Zealand, I think it's fair to say. They'll have gone home and done a bit of work on that. It's always been one of their strengths. They'll bring back a couple of players there that didn't make the trip to New Zealand and a couple of experienced players who were left out of that group. They'll be fresh and ready to go. I think their forward effort will be a lot better against the Springboks first up. And then, of course, you've got your playmakers to dictate what part of the ground that Argentina might like to play. I think very even. As I keep going back to, $3 looks real cool to me.
I love that. Absolutely love it. Might be having a little nibble myself, I think. Any players in particular you've got your eye on, Paul?
It's more a player who isn't there. Lukhanyo, who has been super for the Springboks this season. He's been closest to their sort of Artie Savere, their best performed in just about every single game. So without him being there, can the Pumas exploit that? And then, once again, the breakdown. Which loose forward trio will gain ascendancy? I think whichever one does will go a long way towards deciding who wins this game. So I'm looking forward to seeing if the Pumas can exploit the fact that Lukhanyo isn't there. And we know Boffelli can kick points. So they'll get opportunities, I'm sure. Or they'll give him opportunities to kick some points. They'll take them. Will that be enough to get over the top of the South African side? At home, they are a chance.
Sorry, I lost my microphone there. Yeah, I think there's back three are probably the ones to watch for me, for providing that they just start for Argentina. Obviously, no Pumas squad at the moment, but the Crema, João Martin Gonzalez and Matera, yeah, as Smithy said before, they were absolutely huge in that game in Christchurch. So if they can bring it, obviously we know the strength of that Springboks back three when they're those loosies when they're firing. So the breakdown could really be an area to watch. Boffelli will take any opportunity he can to take the three. So Springboks will be aware of that and know that they have to sort of keep up with the discipline. So really quickly, we'll just touch on the Rugby Championship outright market. We've talked about it a few times, Paul, but just want to get Smithy, who you'd be backing from here. New Zealand are $1.50 favourite, South Africa $3.25, Australia $8, and Argentina $21. There's only 1 point separating all the four teams on the table. Who are you running into with a wheel of nibble in that market?
Well, I just can't get away from us now, to be honest. I was worried a couple of weeks ago. But, I mean, Eden Park's a lay-down misère, isn't it? I mean, it has to be. I mean, how much history we're going against there if we expect that we're not going to win that one. So, to me, it's all about tomorrow night. It could be done and dusted for me mentally anyway tomorrow night, and I'm not sure the other sides will be able to do too much about it. A convincing win in Melbourne, followed by a convincing win at Eden Park, is going to be pretty hard to overcome. So it's the shorts, it's the popular money, but it's my money.
Yeah, there was some questions about it now, but every week that goes by, and now that we've talked about that Argentina South Africa game, I'm starting to think that New Zealand's probably, even though it's very short, probably where I'd be going as well.
I can understand why Smithy likes that. And of course, we do have that history at Eden Park. A few weeks ago, we had a bit of history where Argentina had never beaten us in New Zealand. A couple of months ago, we had a wee bit of history where Ireland had never won a test match over here.
Never lost in Mumbai.
So it sounds like 2022 is the year for streaks and history to be rewritten. So although the All Blacks are in the driver's seat, and of course they got the final test match at Eden Park, I can't take the $1.50. I can't take it.
Okay.
I wasn't taking it a few weeks ago, but I will take it now. But in saying that, my betting not have that much confidence in the All Blacks. Okay, well, we're speaking of betting. We'll move to betting for the week. You got a best bet for us, Paul?
For the Rugby Championship?
For the Rugby Championship, yes.
Yep. I've got Samisoni Tokiaho to score a try on Thursday night. He's paying $2.25.
Love that. So I don't know if you've had a chance to have a look at the markets or anything. Anything that stands out for you for a best bet?
Yeah, I will have Rieko Ioane to score a try in the first half. I'm not sure if that's an option, so I'll just take Rieko Ioane to score a try. I think once he explodes through a gap, there'll be no stopping him. So Rieko Ioane to score a try, absolutely.
He's playing some awesome footy. So he's one of those players. It depends which guy turns up. But yeah, if he's on like he was against Argentina, he was close to a near perfect performance, I thought. So
Bit of a makeshift Wallabies midfield as well.
Yeah,
exactly. Absolutely.
I'm gonna have a little bit more pessimism towards the All Black. I'm just gonna take Australia plus 12.5. I think that I'll keep it close. And as you say, it's a year of first, so an off chance that they do get a win there, I'll take the plus on that one. So $1.80 for that. Value bet, Paul?
Yeah, I'm sort of thinking along the same lines as you. I think Australia will come bursting out of the blocks, and they might just hustle the All Blacks for a while there. So I'm going to take Australia to lead at halftime, All Blacks to win the match. That's paying $6.
I don't mind that at all, actually.
What?
So, yeah.
What?
So they've hardly been the fastest starters this year, have they?
Oh, I've just had a huge punter walk into my house. He just heard that. He wants your private number, Moati. Goodness me. Wallabies to lead at half time?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe it. Okay. No,
We better have Smithy back next week, because when the Wallabies are leading at half time, I want them back next week.
I'll be taking Argentina half-time, full-time double. There you go. What's that?
Oh,
value bet.
There we go.
My one's actually the same game, but I've got Argentina half-time, South Africa full-time, and that's $6. So I imagine Argentina will be more than that.
Okay, Argentina. Yeah. Oh, crikey, where is it?
You haven't even got it listed. It's that outrageous.
Yeah. Argentina, $4.
Oh, really? I thought it'd be more than that.
$4.
That's all right.
Goodness me.
Take that. And we do a thing on the podcast where we're trying to chase down our first collective same game multi. So we pick a league each. Paul?
I've got Caleb Clark to score a try. It's paying $2.
Another try scorer. I've got over 49.5 points in that game. I think there'll be a few points scored. There's a bit of a history of high scoring games between these teams. Any sort of option, any try scorer that sticks out to you, Smithy? You want to chuck in there?
Australia first scoring will be a Bernard Foley penalty. There you go.
I love that. Sure, there'll be some sort of Australia score a penalty first or something.
First scoring play, Australia penalty, put it that way.
Okay, yep.